For almost 18 years, the Violence Against Women Act, VAWA, has been the centerpiece of the federal government's commitment to combat domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking. I'm honored to lead the effort to see it reauthorized. Since its passage in 1994, no other piece of legislation has done more to stop domestic and sexual violence in our communities. The resources, the training provided by VAWA have changed attitudes toward these reprehensible crimes. They've improved the response of law enforcement and the justice system. They've provided essential services for victims struggling to rebuild their lives. It's a law that has saved countless lives. It's an example of what we can accomplish when we work together. Years ago, when I was a prosecutor in Vermont, I saw firsthand the destruction caused by domestic and sexual violence. And those were the days before VAWA, when too often people dismiss these serious crimes with a joke. There are few, if any, services for victims. I look around desperately trying to find somewhere to help the victim. There are no services. I have to call on people to volunteer. My wife and I even paid, oftentimes, for the expenses of taking care of victims. And that was the same everywhere around the country. We've come a long way since then. But there's much more than we can do. I'd love to be able to say there's no more domestic violence. And we don't need this. But we know that there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of cases that have to be resolved. Over the last few years, the Judiciary Committee has held several hearings on VAWA in anticipation of reauthorization. We've heard from people from all over the country. And they've told us the same thing I hear from service providers and experts and law enforcement officials in Vermont. While we've made great strides in reducing domestic violence and sexual assault, these difficult problems remain. There's more work to be done. And the victim services funded by VAWA play a particularly critical role in these difficult economic times. The economic pressures of a lost job or home can add stress to an already abusive relationship. It can make it harder for victims to rebuild their lives. But at the same time, state budget cuts are resulting in fewer available services. For many, the programs funded through the Violence Against Women Act are nothing short of a lifeline. I mean that, just that, a lifeline, because it has saved lives. The reauthorization bill that Senator Crapo will now introduce on Wednesday will reflect Congress's ongoing commitment to end domestic and sexual violence. It seeks to expand the law's focus on sexual assault, to ensure access to services for all victims of domestic and sexual violence, to address the crises of domestic and sexual violence in tribal communities, among other important steps. It also responds to these difficult economic times by consolidating programs, reducing authorization levels, and adding accountability measures to ensure that federal funds are used efficiently and effectively. The Violence Against Women Act has been successful because it has consistently had strong bipartisan support for nearly 2 decades. I'm honored to work now with Senator Crapo to build on that foundation. I hope the senators from both parties will join us to quickly pass this critical reauthorization, provide safety and security for victims across America. All anyone has to do is go and read the transcripts of some of the hearings we've had on this, or people like the distinguished presiding officer or myself or others who served in law enforcement, served as prosecutors. We know it goes way beyond just statistics. These are people who have been violated, who turn to their country, to their government for help, for safety. Don't let the United States Senate say, no, we're going to close the door in your face.